What's your bigger picture in the future?
Yeah, actually, we have a bigger objective, actually two objectives I would say. One is financial inclusivity. That is to bring marginalized communities who do not have access to financial services into the ecosystem. The second part is actually the use of cash. If you look at central bank statistics, we have 1.2 trillion worth of cash in circulation.
Welcome to the Biznomics podcast, where we dive into industry insights with top experts. Today, we're excited to speak with the CEO of LankaPay, Mr. Channa de Silva. Founded in 2019, Biznomics celebrates the global impact of Sri Lankan individuals and their brands. Join us as we explore the achievements and vision of a leader in Sri Lanka's payment industry. So, Mr. Channa, there are a few things we would like to get to know about LankaPay. Let's dive right into the questions. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. So, Central Bank together with LankaPay introduced LankaQR in 2020. What was the purpose of introducing this?
Yeah, when we actually looked at the statistics in the market in terms of payments, we found that even though digital payments were forging ahead, we found that still cash prevailed significantly in the market as a payment instrument. So if we are to move this pure cash transaction into digital, we had to understand what the market dynamics were. So one of the problems we found that especially the SME sector did not have a mechanism to accept digital payments. Because if you look at 2 decades of card payments and point of sale terminals, the penetration has been into especially the larger segment of the merchants. The smaller segments, which is SMEs, which are contributing to 52% of the GDP, did not have any way of accepting digital payments. Primarily because they couldn't afford a point of sale terminal, and also the commission charge for the post transaction or card transaction was fairly high, like 3 to 3.5%. which the small time merchants didn't want to accept. So the other problem we saw was when the small time merchants could not accept payments, especially if you are to automate the segments like ride sharing, 3-wheelers and so on, the payment receiver preferred to receive cash because at the end of the day they needed cash to do their groceries and other transactions. Because of that, they actually started rejecting card payments and other digital payments. So the only way for us to move forward was to get them into the ecosystem. Only way to get them into the ecosystem was to get the small time MSMEs into digital. So the only way to get them into digital, we had to figure out a way, and QR was a very low cost option where the merchant only needs a sticker and the consumer needs a smartphone. Merchant only needs a sticker where you can do a scan and make the payment, and the money will go into the bank account. And so in this sense, any consumer who has a smartphone can make a payment, and any merchant who has a sticker, doesn't even need to have a smartphone, can accept a digital payment. So in order to go into the market, which is a wider segment, 80% of the population in Sri Lanka is rural. So if we are to go there and get digital payments up, we have to bring this segment into the mainstream payments. So this was one of the objectives, and also in terms of reducing the merchant commission to the MSMEs, this was brought down to 1% the commission initially, and then central bank later on during COVID brought this down to 0.5% commission. So which was a very attractive proposition for the merchants compared to card payments, and this is actually the fundamental reasons why we introduced QR into the market.
So what do you have to say about that option? Is it satisfactory?
Unfortunately, no. In terms of merchant adoption, we have seen significant strides. If you look at the numbers, card-based transaction, the point of sale deployment is roughly in excess of 100,000 terminals in the entire country. But again, these are also widely deployed in larger shops like supermarkets to larger retail shops, clothes shops and others, where the presence of retail segment of point of sale is low. But in terms of QR, we have nearly deployed 400,000 QR across merchants, and which means we have brought in a larger segment of the merchants on board. However, what we have seen is the traction among consumers for making QR payments has not taken off as we anticipated. There could be multiple reasons for that, but in terms of adoption, it's not at a level where we envisaged when we started in 2020. And it's actually, I would say, comparative to other payment modes, it's low in terms of the usage. But so as of now, we are figuring out mechanisms to promote this and get them to consumers to use more and more QR, make more and more QR transactions. And we are actually moving into other areas to see how we can increase adoption.
So what do you think are the obstacles for driving QR payment adoption?
So one option is one obstacle would be the consumer awareness on the ability to make QR based payments, and also their willingness to make a payment at a merchant, retail merchant, or using digital. So that could be one reason also, and also the lack of awareness among the merchants also we have seen. Just because you give them a QR, especially the MSME segment, they may not know the benefits of getting that and using that, right? And also, in terms of what are they are getting additional business to show other benefits of that. So I think there is some gap in merchant awareness in terms of the benefits of this payment mode, as well as a consumer push. Where if the consumers are pushing for payment, then obviously the merchants will have to come on board. But we are not seeing that consumer push. So it could be due to other payment modes being enabled through digital, retail payments, online payments. But we have not really seen the on-premise payments, growing with number. I mean, it's growing slowly, but it's not growing at the pace that we envisaged initially, right? So but what we are trying to see is we have still not figured out the exact reason why this is so, but we have certain understanding of the market. One is we need to create more awareness in the market, but also we create more traction by getting more and more merchants to request for payments using QR. We are not really also seeing that. Where the merchants would be requesting for a QR payment. Obviously, the benefit to them is much bigger because the commission that they get charged is much smaller, and they can start accepting digital payments. And also, in terms of most of the merchants, when they are dealing in cash, they don't get credit worthy with the bank, right? And they can never go and get a loan because they are dealing in cash. But when they get into QR, the money will actually go and land in his bank account, his or her bank account, and then the bank can actually evaluate for a 6 months period the credit worthiness and offer a loan. So right now, the small time merchants, the only option for them is go to a loan shark and get a loan at exorbitant rates. Whereas if they get into a digital mechanism, digital payment mode, and the money goes and lands in his or her bank account, then suddenly they become credit worthy and banks can offer a loan. So some of these things we need to create awareness among merchants so that they will start, asking for QR payments as opposed to others. And these are some of the things that some of the gaps in the market which we are trying to address in the future.
So what are basically the benefits of becoming a LankaQR merchant?
Yeah, so one of the benefits is obviously, I think initially I said, the merchant commission is 0.5% as opposed to accepting a card payment which is 3 to 3.5% in most cases. Mm-hmm. So especially for a small timer, somebody who's selling a loaf of bread, would they want to, probably the profit of that is 5% of the sale, and they don't want to give 3.5% out of that to a bank as a commission. Whereas when you have 0.5%, definitely there is a significant benefit of reduced commission. So they should be prone to accept these type of payments, right? And in terms of, as I said, the credit worthiness of the merchants, and that would enable them to obtain loans from a financial institution, whatever their bank is. The third one is actually dealing in cash has its own perils. One is obviously safeguarding the cash in a cash box where people come and rob, and the other one is actually having change, asking for change money, which is again here you make the exact payment that goes into it. So you don't really need to worry with the change, money that you need to give as change. So these are some of the obvious benefits that a merchant can get. However, I think the lack of awareness and is probably not driving this message to the merchants. I think that's what we are seeing.
LankaPay has now partnered with several international and regional payment networks. Can you enlighten us more about these?
Yeah, so actually the partnership is twofold. One is basically we wanted to help the economy because we were in an economic crisis. Where attracting foreign exchange was a big issue. So where we saw a larger segment in terms of the tourism, we saw the largest contingents coming from India and China. And what we felt was if we can enable these tourists to make digital payments, the money will actually come into Sri Lanka through the formal channels. Whereas in the previously it came through different channels, it may not have come directly into Sri Lanka, or sometimes it may not have even come to Sri Lanka. But so in that sense, what we felt was especially the Indians and Chinese citizens, they are very, very prone to use QR payments. So we wanted to figure out a way for them to facilitate QR payments in Sri Lanka. Yeah, we have actually gone and issued LankaQR as a standard. They are familiar with paying with the QR in those countries. Now, in that sense, what we felt was if they are using QR payments using an app in their own country, if they can use the same app in Sri Lanka and scan a LankaQR and make that payment, that would be the most convenient for them because they are used to it anyway, right? So in that sense, that's where we initially partnered with UnionPay of China and National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI, to enable both Chinese and Indian tourists to scan LankaQR and make payments. The objective was to provide a seamless payment experience for the tourists, which would enhance their experience in Sri Lanka in addition to what the country has to offer to tourists, where their life would be seamless. They don't need to go and exchange money, and also they don't need to when they pay with their currency and local currency, there's a conversion, they lose money on that. So what we felt was if in their country they can pay in their own currency, like for example in India, if they can pay in Indian rupees, and if we can enable a way for the merchants to get Sri Lankan rupees, then the transaction will be very seamless and there will be only one conversion. Whereas previously they would have to go and change it to dollars and then come to Sri Lanka, change dollars back to rupees. There's a dual conversion, so which means they are losing a lot of money. So in that sense, what we did was we worked with UnionPay and NPCI to enable app users in those countries to directly scan a LankaQR and make a payment where the customer's account is debited in their own currency and the merchant's account is credited in Sri Lankan rupees. So we enabled this over the last year and a half or so, and as I said, one objective was to make sure that the foreign exchange is coming into the Sri Lanka through formal channels. Number two, attract more tourists to make digital payments because it makes their life easy. Number three is what we also saw was since we saw the adoption of QR among the locals has not been significantly great, what we felt was if the foreigners or tourists come and start using QR, the merchants would start seeing the benefit. And then also merchants would start promoting, and also the domestics who are going to those shops would see others using QR and the adoption would be higher. So we had multiple objectives of introducing this, but I think all of them are positive objectives or positive outcomes to move people into digital, and in that sense the merchants would get more business from the tourists, as well as they would also hopefully encourage domestic users, local users to start using. So this has multiple angles that we looked at why we introduced, and we are seeing good traction coming in with more and more tourists coming up, and we are actually now planning to partner with Alipay of China and WeChat Pay of China, they are the largest segments of the Chinese population as well as regionally. Actually, Alipay has partnered with in 18 or 20 countries, where they have enabled their wallet payments in those countries to accept payments. So any of those wallets who are coming through the Alipay network would be able to start using LankaQR. So all these tourists who are coming from this destination would be able to make a digital payment, and the beauty of that is they will be paying in their currency, and our merchants will get paid in our currency. So which I think is a win-win situation for all.
Yeah, that certainly does sound very convenient, especially for foreign individuals. They do spend a lot of time outdoors trying to change money here and there.
Absolutely.
So what's your plan to promote LankaQR?
So we have a LankaQR promotional marketing committee, which is actually appointed by the central bank, where lots of bankers and finance companies are in that committee. So we are actually coming up with a campaign of we actually had two campaigns. One was actually, the initial campaign was to attract merchants, which actually I think we had good success, because we have been able to attract nearly 400,000 merchants into that. Right. And the next campaign would be to entice the users, the consumers, to actually make QR payments. So we are now actually coming up with a plan, hopefully within the next month or so. We are launching use cases where we are showing the benefits and also the use cases of QRs, and how both merchants and consumers can benefit by using QR payments, and some other benefits for the economy and as a whole. So we are carrying out a significant positive messaging campaign about QR payments, and we will also start use cases in other countries and so on. So with that campaign, we are hoping that we will start getting momentum and traction into people starting to use, and hopefully also within that time we will also see a lot of foreigners coming in and start using this. So we are hoping that both these combined together, we will see greater adoption and traction in QR payments.
Very interesting, Mr. De Silva. So what's your bigger picture in the future?
Yeah, actually we have a bigger objective, actually two objectives I would say. One is financial inclusivity. That is to bring marginalized communities who do not have access to financial services into the ecosystem. So we can do it through via digital means, which means the merchants of outstations, rural merchants, now can be brought into digital ecosystem through QR payments. The same way the consumers in rural areas also can be brought in. By doing so, we are providing financial services access to these marginalized communities. And by doing so, we make them creditworthy, which actually addresses social issues like, for example, not having to go to a loan shark to obtain a loan, where they can go to a formal financial institution and get a loan, which is addressing a bigger social issue. The second part is actually the use of cash. If you look at central bank statistics, we have 1.2 trillion worth of cash in circulation. Right? Actually, the problem is not necessarily that 1.2 trillion, but 76% out of that, or 850 billion approximately out of that, is with public. It's in cash boxes, walls, and mattresses, right? So that cash is useless. They are not making any interest out of that, or it's useless for anybody and everybody. That can be stolen, so many other perils, right? So if we are, and what is the negative side of that? Generally, as a rule of thumb in the region, based on statistics or based on research, we found that cash in circulation costs about 1.5% of GDP to an economy, and that is to print, distribute, recycle, security, provide security. All that together, it costs about 1.5% of GDP. And how much do we spend on education? It's about 2% of GDP. So which means we are wasting 1.5% of GDP on cash. So imagine if we are able to pull 30% of this into digital, which means we are going to reduce 30% of cash in circulation, which means we are going to save 0.5% GDP. In absolute numbers, that's a large number, because the GDP is in trillions. 0.5% of that is, at least in billions. So if we can save that waste of money, we can divert that into social welfare programs and others, where we can actually give a benefit to the economy and the population as a large. So in the bigger picture is moving away from cash has its economic benefits. So so if we can achieve people to move away from cash into digital, we will also achieve those economic positive economic outcomes as well. So these are, I would say, the two most sought after objectives of digital payments, and those are the two major reasons why we want to actually get digital payment adoption increased in the country.
That really showed a big improvement. I mean, the goal in the future, it certainly does have a major side towards improvement in this economy. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Mr. Channa, for those insightful answers.
Thank you for having me.
I certainly hope the audience will gather much information from that, and we look forward to more episodes with Mr. Channa in Biznomics. Until next time, we hope everyone has a wonderful day.